Alright. I'm trying to remember exactly where I left off last time. Because that would be important. Right. Oh yeah. I was basically just trying to make the point that because it is so difficult to summon the correct people for PvP, and it's not like you can have dedicated servers or anything like that. I mean, the game's never going to be able to make a competitive dent. You know, mechanics be damned, it's never going to make a competitive dent if you can't organize it, you know? That's just the truth of it. You know, I've kind of gone back and forth on some of my feelings of the gameplay and whether it's competitive or not. I still tend to lean towards the gameplay isn't really competitive. I mean, it can be, but it also isn't necessarily. Part of it's in the netcode, because there's some goofy backstabs that can happen, for sure. And I think sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. I mean, the problem with the netcode is just going to be that there's going to be you know, backstabs when there wasn't necessarily a backstab if the connection's not really strong. But I was actually going to move on to, oh yeah, some things that Dark Souls 2 tries to do in the PvP that I've seen, to make it, to be able to make it more clean, you know, to summon and invade, you know, who you want with the name engraved ring. But it's still not perfect, you know. It's not gonna. It's what am I trying to say? It's not solving the problem. Oh yeah, I did want to get it from the bonfire. Doing two things at once is really like ruining my train of thought. It was like this the other times I wanted to talk about stuff. I didn't really want to get into this whole another discussion about Dark Souls PvP because I wasn't particularly prepared for thinking about it. I just kind of got on the subject. But I do think there are some problems with the PvP that are integral. It doesn't make the PvP bad. You know, in Dark Souls, that is. It doesn't make the PvP bad. It means it is fun. And there was certainly a lot of people who were playing it at, you know, incredibly high levels. Doing some things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought possible. All the same, I still, you know, just don't necessarily think that the game is quite that competitive in the PvP sense. But I mean, I don't know. I've also said that about games before. Well, actually, I've never really said that about games before, to be honest. Maybe when I was younger. So yeah, we got a boss and then we got another boss. It's just one of those areas. I mean, I wouldn't really say I've said that about a game before, but maybe when I was younger, and then kind of just thought about it. Because I mean, a lot of games, people will say that same sort of line. They'll be like, "Well, it's not very competitive game. You can't try to make it a competitive game." And you know, we're talking like 9 times out of 10, these guys are pretty much wrong. In fact, it's primarily what I would say, like 10 times out of 10, those kind of guys are wrong. And I'm one that I wouldn't really want to call anybody wrong on, just like outright wrong on something like that. But I'm sorry. Basically, yeah, wow. I kind of tried a new strategy against that guy. I've never rolled over to that section and tried to fight him. It didn't work out. So, especially because I'm trying to talk about this other stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I'm trying to say that there's not competitive elements in Dark Souls, but I'm not necessarily discounting them. There's something there, because, you know, people are playing the game at such a high level, and excuse me? Okay, that was weird. I mean, I went through that before and didn't even die, and okay. If you say so, game. At least now I don't have to be afraid of dying in this guy's boss battle. Whatever. Right. So, but I don't know. I just don't see much to the metagame. I didn't want to really say this because it's not like I did play a lot of PvP in Dark Souls, but I'm going to be honest, I just didn't see much in the metagame. I didn't really want to block that, but couldn't get a good look at the guy. What am I doing? Why did I roll that way? I'm just not concentrating at all on what I'm doing here. I think it shows. I think anyone watching this would be like, what is he thinking about? I'm thinking about what I'm trying to say, and I'm not able to say it, and at the same time I'm just not able to fight the boss either, because I'm trying to think of two things at once. Let me just do the same thing I did before for the last boss. Just think about what I'm doing. There's no even reason to recover here. Okay, I didn't really want to block there. I was trying to roll out of the way. And you can see my roll acted after my my block ended. Uh-huh. This guy's being really fun today. You want to give me the opportunity to actually hit you, dude? Oh my god, seriously? I hate this guy's bullshit. I'm gonna be honest. I kinda just... I don't think about this fight a lot, because it's such a... I don't know, this is the least interesting boss in the game to me, to be honest. I mean, that's really all I had to do. He's just kind of a pain in the ass until he gets up to you. So, yeah, don't have to worry about it too much now. Now, trust me, I did have a point eventually to make. All of this stuff about, the PvP and everything, I did have a point I'm trying to make eventually. So yeah. At the end of the day, I'm not going to call Dark Souls PvP particularly competitive, and that's from the sense that this is nothing, by the way. I just want to point that out. And that's from the sense that oh, I thought this was the way to go. Why did I think this was the way to go? I forgot which way to go. Over here. That's it. From the sense that you're never going to be able to organize it properly. Oh, let me talk to Slayer.
Why? Why? After all this searching, I still cannot find it.
Alright. Okay. So, as I was saying, the organization problem is the problem with Dark Souls PvP. It's going to continue to be the problem. And there's just nothing you can do about it. Additionally, I think there's room for a little bit more balance in the PvP as well. I mean, the Dark Souls PvP is decently balanced because there's a lot of stuff that is viable. But it's not something that I would say all builds and playstyles are viable, because it's just not the case at all. And that's kind of what's going to turn me off a little bit sometimes. Ooh, did I get stuck here? Okay, not quite stuck there. I'm going to make a run for it through here. It's a little bit scary. Those things are slightly scary. I'd love for them to attack each other, though. They can do that. Oh shit, shit. Right. So yeah, I'd like to see everything viable. Well, most things, at least, close to most things. I don't think that slow, lumbering, armored up tower shield guys should necessarily be viable, because this is a type of game that I think lends itself more to being fast-paced, and if you have like people playing as like lumbering, slow, up full and Havels, giant armor dad guys, I don't think that's good for the community. I don't think that's good for the game. But most things should be viable. There should be, daggers should be more viable. What was another weapon class? Axe, like one-handed axes and two-handed axes should be more viable. There should be just more viability all around. Now, this all does tie back to talking about Dark Souls 2 PvP. And from what I understand of Dark Souls 2 PvP, they didn't fix that. In fact, they may have exacerbated it. And that's really disappointing, you know? I would, my hope would be that in Dark Souls 2 they would, have a PvP put together that really feels like it could be something more. Now that's granted, that's a hard thing to do for a game that's certainly focused on giving you a single player experience, and the PvP is sort of, it's not an afterthought because they've balanced for it in the past. Yeah, I just sat there and like took all of that. I have no idea why I did it. And I mean, it's clear that they care about it because they've actually tried to balance for it in the past. And it's understandable. Oh, that's, I don't remember that statue being there. That's weird. And it's understandable that, when you're making a single player experience, that it's not necessarily going to be easy to balance for a multiplayer experience as well, when they use the same mechanics, That's why, like in Call of Duty, there's a different weapon balance from the single player to the multiplayer. And that's just the first example that came off the top of my head, because it's the first example I could think of a game that has a heavy single player component on top of its multiplayer component. Well, actually, here's a great example for a game that's actually competitive. Not trying to knock Call of Duty, well, maybe a little trying to knock Call of Duty, but Quake 4. Yeah, it's not as popular as the other Quake games, but it still has, a lot of the same aspects of the Quake games in its multiplayer. Single player experience, totally different. I mean, totally different. You would wonder if you're even playing Quake, to be honest, when you play the single player. It's that different. There's no strafe jumping. There's no, no like bunny hopping, strafe jumping, rocket jumping, that sort of thing. It's very, it's like it tries to have a realistic shooter, like a tactical shooter experience. It's not the best way to describe it, but that's sort of a way to describe it. I wanted to take that pyromancer out quick. About to get stomped by a firestorm, probably. And that's what I think most games that try to provide a single player and a multiplayer experience should probably consider, is that you can balance the single player differently from the multiplayer. And I'll give some credit to FromSoft, and what they've done with the Souls series, because the way they've balanced the single player actually kind of lends itself to a multiplayer balance, which is cool. They recognize that, hey, you can make mechanics that could work good in a multiplayer setting in just a single player setting. That was weird. And I love that they did that. Excuse me, I just keep like just having to hold back belches over here for some reason. I'm not even drinking anything that's particularly carbonated or bubbly. I'm just drinking some tea, and even that I haven't drank much of. Okay, what was it saying? Oh yeah, it's great that they're trying to combine those two experiences. And I want to reiterate, I think that it works, to an extent it works. However, sometimes it's easy when you're really trying to put together a good single player experience. It's easy to overlook things that make a good multiplayer experience. And to that effect, I think that From Software probably was trying to deliver a great multiplayer experience a great single player experience for Dark Souls 2 over that of a great multiplayer experience for Dark Souls 2, and that's understandable. And I haven't played the game yet. I am going off of, what I understand from some of the people I watched on, YouTube. Solaire's hollow now. We have to kill him. Unfortunately, there's a way to keep him alive. And if you keep him alive, you can actually summon him for the last boss battle, but keeping him alive is an absolute pain in the ass. Not doing it, I'm sorry. It's too time consuming, too much of a pain in the ass. Back to the topic at hand. Who is, like, straight up, somebody is doing some crazy kindling up there, yeah. And you can see we opened a door now that's a shortcut back to the Demon's Ruins, which we can, if we want to, and I generally do like to, even though it's a little bit further away, I like to go back to the bonfire after the Fire Sage Demon. Now, some of the things I've heard that are kind of mucking up the Dark Souls 2 PvP right now, that, for one thing, melee's not very powerful. And I've seen people make all kinds of comments like, it's melee is viable. It's just you have to what is it they use? That you have to spread your points now. You have to what am I thinking? You have to diversify your build, and all this stuff. That's crap. And they should know that that's crap. I mean, really. Let's just think about it for a second. Let's think about it on a on that level, like diversifying your build. Okay. So, I'm a melee guy, and I realized that my weapons don't exactly scale properly with my what am I doing? With my stats like they should. I've got, say I'm doing like a quality 40-40, and I'm using a CC scaling weapon, which you gotta understand, a CC scaling weapon with 40-40 actually gets a lot of damage, because you may be getting average scaling, but you're getting it from two stats that are at 40 and 40, which is a pretty high number for those stats. Which is probably eventually, I'll see how far I get with this one. I would like to get to 40-40 with this one. In fact, let's see, 25-25. That would mean 15 more on both of those, so that's 30 more. That would put me at 100, and then I could put some in Faith. I would just be running low health and low stamina. Because a lot of people run run a lot of vitality. I think they favor vitality over stamina. They might put like 30 in stamina, and then try to go up as high as they can in vitality.